Hey guys, this is my review of the Alaskan cruise. So the ship we rode on was the Poesia out of the port of Seattle. It was a 8-day long trip total. So regarding the boat was absolutely beautiful. Lots of bars, lots of shows, random shows, kind of always going off in different random rooms. There's always something going on at some point. Lotteries sometimes going on, even game shows, which we participated at least in one of them. They have a giant theater for these really awesome acrobatic shows that they put on pretty much every night. People there are really talented. There's a lot of singing and a lot of tricks you'd probably see at a carnival. At the top deck, it was also very stunning, beautiful. You could do a long walk. There's a long walkway on both sides of the boat. Good for taking a jog or just checking out the views. Then down below that, you had seating for eating or the bars or just little other shows they'd put on outside. The unfortunate part about the deck was that there was smoking allowed outside on the deck, and it would stink so bad, and I hated it. That's my biggest complaint. But outside of that, there was also pools on the deck. There were a few maniacs that jumped into those pools because they weren't heated. Thankfully, the kids' pool was heated, and obviously so were the hot tubs. So my kid had a great time in the pool, and I got to enjoy the hot tub. They also have a playground up on the top deck. The babies loved that a lot. Spent a lot of time in there. They have a basketball court up top. It was super windy up there, so we never used it, but it was pretty cool. They also have multiple daycare facilities. That was kind of neat. I didn't really use them because we were always kind of running around doing things, or the kids just wanted to go to the playground. But it's there, it's an option. They also had an arcade. Unfortunately, the arcade was closed for most of our time on the boat. I think they were doing some fixes. But in the last couple of days, the arcade opened up, and it's a pretty decent arcade. They had a gym, really nice gym. Me and my wife used that. Great views all around the gym. Good equipment, a lot of the standard stuff, dumbbells, and even a yoga room. Our cabin was pretty good. I mean, we got the Kids Go Free package. It came with 2 bunk beds on the top, so we have 2 kids, so 1 for each bunk bed, and then we slept right in the middle. We had a window, which was nice. Yeah, it worked. If we went there with a 3rd kid, I don't think it would be just a little bit too tight, but it worked with just me, my wife, and 2 kids. Regarding food, oh man, one of the best parts of this cruise ship was just the all-you-can-eat breakfast and lunch buffet. You could even go for dinner if you want to the buffet, but it is a awesome selection of all kinds of food. A lot of, I guess you could say, maybe European food. I mean, they have cheeseburgers too. They have Asian food. They kind of have everything. I think they even had some Mexican food. They have a wide selection of desserts. It was just phenomenal, and it was like that every single day. For dinner, you have the option to go and sit down at kind of one of these fine seating places they have on the boat. We loved doing that. We never missed that. We went to that every night. And it's all free, right? So even the dinners are pretty much like buffets. So it was just outstanding. One of my favorite parts of the trip. Now, in terms of places, Ketchikan was the first stop, and it was by far my favorite. Ketchikan just had a lot of character, and we got to see it kind of a good roundabout view of it because we took the duck boat tour. It was kind of on the cheaper side compared to some of the other excursions that you can pay for. The boat guy was funny. We got to see pretty much, I think, the bulk of Ketchikan. There was a lot of pretty parts to it. Oh, and a really cool thing about the duck tours is the reason they call it the duck tours is because the car literally transformed into a boat, like James Bond style. And we go from the roadside into the ocean side by just driving into the ocean. What was really neat was how they'd have shops and stuff out on the docks, and the docks would kind of weave around like as if the dock was a street. In fact, that was how they built Ketchikan, was they built docks and then they put housing on it and more road, and they just kept going out that way. So that was a bit of the history we learned about Ketchikan. So the next spot we went to was Icy Strait Point. I put it like 2nd place on the list behind Ketchikan. It was really cool. We took the gondola excursion and went up to the top of this giant mountain and ate s'mores. Had a little hike up there, and that was really cool. And then there's another gondola. You don't have to pay for the second gondola. That's the one that actually takes you into town. And when I say town, it's more like, you know, kind of a farm like market. It's really neat up there. It's kind of all on the coast of the water. There's food and lots of good views. And a little barn like spot, and they kind of show you how they go about catching fish. And it was really neat. And then we took the gondola back down. There, you could even hike it if you wanted to. You don't have to take the gondola. Oh, and then after that, we saw the glacier. It was kind of like the boat just drives in, you kind of just look at it, it drives out. But it is really neat. Like, you're just there. Like, no picture can kind of do it justice. You're just kind of surrounded in this beauty of Alaska. After that, we went on to Juneau. And Juneau was more of the kind of bigger town city. It kind of more reminded me of where I grew up and live. It's kind of like around Seattle. It's kind of a slum. You know, I wasn't that impressed with Juneau. It was just kind of like another regular city, and it was along the water, so that's nice. I'm probably a little bit spoiled because I live around Seattle, so I'm just used to waterfront cities, but it was still cool to go to. They had a lot of touristy spots. I think out of all the places, it probably had the least amount of character. We didn't really do too much there. We just kind of walked around into the shops, and then we kind of hopped back on the boat. Then the last place we stopped was Victoria in Canada, and that was really pretty. Victoria as a city is so beautiful. There was a couple of ways that you could ride into town off the port. We ended up going with a rickshaw. If you don't know what a rickshaw is, it's a cart, and you sit in the cart with whoever else. So like me, my entire family sat in this cart, and you're pulled by another person who picks up the cart on the other end, like a chariot, like, you know, device, and then runs us into town. And the calves on this guy was just crazy. He was super cool. Rickshaw was fun. I recommend that experience. And we got to look at some of the major parts of Victoria. We looked at some of the pretty buildings. We learned a little bit about the history on the tour. We even stopped at some shops, got some shirts, stopped at a candy shop, stopped at this really beautiful bar that was designed by some famous guy in Victoria. We got to see kind of all Victoria lit up, like just really pretty lights, you know, see the city life on our way back. So that was really cool. You know, I'd put that in maybe the top 3 experiences of the trip. And so that was it. You know, it was a really fun vacation. I've lived in Seattle my entire life, and I always put off the Alaska cruise, but people kept telling me how much fun it was. So we finally went, and I can gladly say it was really fun. I think the only complaint I have is the smoking on the deck was so gross. And they needed an indoor pool. There was no indoor pool. They need an indoor pool because of how cold it is outside. I think I'd give it a 7 or 8 out of 10. Basically, I learned it's kind of like Washington, but way colder. So there you go.